We're not focusing. Oh, how do we focus? Hey guys, how are you? I have not made a YouTube video in years, but I feel called to record this to sit down and talk about dopamine. I feel like dopamine and a dopamine detox. So I'll get into that in a sec. So I feel like we as a society need this video right now desperately. So let's talk about dopamine. What is dopamine? It is a neurotransmitter, a chemical that we receive in our bodies constantly. And so why is it important now, and why is it something that we should be detoxing from, right? And so many of you have probably heard the phrase instant gratification. What is instant gratification? Instant gratification is those little moments of what you perceive as happiness or fulfillment, enjoyment, but they only last a second. You know how they say post-nut clarity? Well, there's post-dopamine clarity, if that's a thing. I know many people in our generation are addicted to vapes, right? Consider in the morning you wake up and the first thought you have is, let me hit my vape. The moment you hit it, that feeling, that nagging craving that you have, it's gone. You have that clarity post getting your dopamine hit. And so that's what dopamine is. It's these constant things that are just giving us little bits of pleasure here and there instantly. We just do one little thing and we get that instant signal of dopamine hitting us. It's a little signal of pleasure that is so addictive to ourselves, to our brains, to our body, that we don't even realize how much of our lives we start to put off, kind of. You know, I'm not here to bash dopamine. It's a natural neurotransmitter. We need dopamine to survive. We need dopamine to move our bodies, to regulate a lot of our systems. But dopamine, in the amounts that we receive it today as society, I would argue is harmful to a degree. And here's why. We are receiving intense amounts of dopamine, more than we've ever received all day, every day, nearly every single one of us. And we all get it through different forms, and so we don't even realize how addicted we are to dopamine. You know, some of us scroll social media. Social media gives us those hits of dopamine. Seeing other people's posts, that gives us those little hits of dopamine. Hitting your vape, smoking a cigarette. The nicotine, it's giving you those hits of dopamine. Eating that candy, or maybe that chocolate that you really don't want, or rather, that you really don't, you shouldn't be eating, maybe you're on a diet or whatever the case may be. It's going to give you that hit of dopamine, that little tiny moment of pleasure that hits your brain. Dopamine will hit your pleasure center, and it feels amazing to finally fulfill this intense craving that you have. The way that dopamine works is very similar to, let's say, alcohol, right? Say you don't drink every day, you drink once in a while, you only need 1 or 2 shots to really feel the alcohol, maybe even 3 or 4 shots and you're fully drunk. That's all you need, because you don't consume it that much. You have it in moderation, but you're still consuming it, right? And so dopamine is very similar. When we receive dopamine here and there, that's all our brains really need, that small bits of pleasure here and there, in order to continue living with our lives. But what happens when you start drinking every day? What happens when you start partying every day, getting drunk every single night? As more time goes on, you need more and more alcohol to feel the same effects. To get drunk, now you don't need 3 or 4 shots, you need 10. And so it's the same case with dopamine. The more that we're exposed to this instant gratification, the more and more and more that our body craves it and wants it and feels like it's really almost do or die, right? Consider something as intense as drug addicts, right? That in itself, a drug addiction very frequently, is really just a dopamine addiction. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but nevertheless, things like nicotine, I feel to a very strong degree, is really just a dopamine addiction. Video games is a huge one. So here's the thing, why is dopamine so bad? Why am I bashing it so aggressively? Well, the thing is, all of us have dreams in our lives. We all have things that motivate us, things that, you wake up and you want to achieve. And so you'll see that throughout people's lives, the longer that time goes on, many people don't achieve those dreams. They lose that motivation, they lose sight of those goals, because now they're no longer thinking about their long-term goals and the things that they have to sacrifice in order to get what they really want. A lot of people are really focused on what they want in this present moment, here and now, and that's that dopamine hit. And so here's why I'm bashing it so much. Dopamine is kind of killing your dreams, A lot of people always try to figure out, how do I stay motivated? How do I keep... A lot of young people, definitely. How do I stay motivated? How do I keep pushing towards my dreams when I no longer want to? And a lot of that has to do with dopamine and understanding the way that it's... A lot of it has to do with dopamine and understanding the hold that it really has over us. And so many people will sacrifice what they want in life, what they really want in life, in order to get what they want in life now. And that's that instant gratification, that pleasure center that's being hit instantly with the dopamine. And the craving for it is so intense and so strong that it overpowers any other motivation or any other really desire for long-term goals at all. And so that's what happens, and over time people lose sight of their goals because they're focused on the things in front of us now. Instagram, social media, phones, video games, drugs, anything. It doesn't matter. I may have not even mentioned it. Dopamine is in every one of our lives, in whichever way it's manifested, right? So let's talk about a dopamine detox and what that looks like. Right, so when we come to realize that dopamine is kind of holding our lives back so strongly, and we want to regain that motivation, we want to regain that remembrance of what we're really doing all this for, our whys, of our dreams, of our projects, of our goals, whatever it is, we have to go within ourselves and understand what is holding us back. If yours is video games, for example, we need to actively remove as much dopamine as we can in order to get to rewire our brains back to kind of neutrality, because our brains are so used to it. We need that tolerance break. We need a tolerance break to get back to our state of ground zero, kind of, where one little hit of dopamine every once in a while is enough to suffice our brain, and we don't have those constant nagging cravings to continue getting hitting that pleasure center in our brain. If you're someone who's really motivated to achieve their dreams, if you're someone who's, in the entrepreneurial space trying to do whatever it may be, a dopamine detox, and I would honestly say a frequent dopamine detox, is like the number one thing that I can possibly tell anyone to do. And it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. Our brains are quite literally addicted to it, and the more we get it, the more we crave it. The first day of you eliminating dopamine, say it's your phone. You put away your phone for the whole day. Say it's nicotine. Whatever it may be, because we are receiving it constantly, us putting it away for just one day, it's almost incomprehensible for our brain. Our brains won't understand what's going on, and it's going to fight you so hard to continue to get more of that. And that's the problem everyone has, because they want to continue to change themselves, and everyone wants to continue to grow and become this better person, but we have such a hard time letting go of the things that are holding us back. And so once you understand what's holding you back, and a lot of that is things that trigger dopamine within yourself, you will be able to exponentially level up, exponentially increase your productivity, increase your motivation, absolutely everything. I say this from personal experience, I say this from experience with clients, I say this from experience from absolutely anybody else I know who's successful and who's done this. Every successful person I know detoxes from dopamine regularly. This is not a one-time solution. You have to do this regularly and consistently, because the moment you remove all the dopamine from yourself and you're back in that flow state of finally like grinding and hustling, and you're not distracted by all these other cravings that your brain gives you, over time, whether it's the same or different, there's going to be other things that dopamine's going to be released from. You're going to find something new in your life that your brain attaches dopamine onto and will provide dopamine, and your brain will attach something new onto which to provide you dopamine with. And again, everything in moderation. Dopamine is good, it's not bad for you, but again, in moderation. And so this is something that we have to actively practice once in a while, where we have to sit down with ourselves and understand what is holding us back and what is it that we are putting off to get that dopamine. And our addiction to it is so strong, our cravings are so powerful, that without even realizing, we will actively put ourselves, whether it's in harm's way and danger, or doing things that are really not good for us, maybe unhealthy, or just don't align with your goals and your dreams and the habits that you're trying to create, because that craving for dopamine is so extreme and so strong. And that's what's going to happen in those first 1 to 3 days of your dopamine detox. And that's how long typically I would say go for it. Like within, I would say even almost up to a week of try to restrict yourself from all those things that dopamine is producing within yourself. As you go on through this detox, what you're going to start to realize is, well, first your brain will be craving all those things that you're restricting it from, right? It's craving those things because it knows that you're going to get those dopamine hits from it. But the more that you restrict yourself, the more that you say no and take control of your life, of your daily habits, the more your brain will kind of unlink itself from those things that are producing dopamine for you. And so as more time goes on, you're going to kind of have these little states of almost boredom. And you're not going to know what to do. And over time, now that you're no longer fixated on the short-term instant gratification, your mind and your focus is going to open up to your long-term goals more. You're going to get that motivation to work on your dreams more, or work on your business more, work on that project that you have more. Be able to take our focus from the short-term instant gratifiers to the long-term emotional life fulfillers. And that's really what we're all chasing in life at the end of the day, right? We all want that emotional fulfillment, and yet we still, so many of us sacrifice what we really want for those instant pleasures of what we want now. And so this is why dopamine detox is so important, why I preach it to everyone I know. Again, dopamine, it's killing your dreams, truly it is. And it's time for you to take control of your life and your habits and see where you're falling back and what you can do to level up again, because all of it is in your control. So that is the video.